In this section, we're going to talk about how to build a quiz, and this will be the shortest cut that I can come up with for how rapidly one can build a quiz. But first of all, let me state that really you don't want to be composing your questions at the keyboard while entering it in my courses. It just is pretty distracting. It's hard to sort of stay on track. The quality of your exams and your tests, your questions, as a professional, you'll know what that is, so we're not going to be addressing that at all. I will point out that if it's a distance learning test and someone is taking it away and we don't have proctors, in order to avoid just straight plagiarism or cheating or sharing answers, there's a few steps we can take that I'll show you, but I would encourage you, if it's an important quiz or test, then you put in some short answers that have personalized questions so that people have to respond and you can sort of get a sense of whether it's their work or someone else's. That's important. If it is, instead of a summative where we're trying to really find out do they know the information, but it's formative, we're just trying to find out what they don't know so we can perhaps alter our instruction. It's not quite as important that we are really strict about making sure that it is all their own work. A workaround for that, though, besides those questions, is also putting a time limit on your test. If you have a lengthy test, 60 questions, and you make it an hour, there's a limited amount of real-time research they'll be able to do, and only allowing them to submit one time helps with that as well. That said, let's get right to the quiz. So what we're going to do is come down here for the activity and resources, and we'll just click resource, and then of course we'll have to click quiz. Now there's two steps to this, one of which is we make the container, then we go back to the container or the quiz structure and we put the questions in it. So all we're doing right now is creating a container in which the questions will reside. So we'll give it a name. With that filled in, I will point out that I did not check this box here that says display description on course page. Rather, when they enter the quiz, that's when they'll see this information. So there'll be a title that indicates specifically what's being covered, and then I'll point out down here in my description that I'm actually giving them the limitations and the parameters of the test itself. So the quiz covers all 8 chapters of 9. It will consist of 10 true, false, and 40 multiple choice, and so on. And then it says that at the end of the time period, it will self-submit, leaving no additional time to finish incomplete work, and you can't do multiple submissions. If a student knows that going in, they're more likely to be prepared, and it is difficult. Basically do a lot of research in that period if your questions really do meet the time frame pretty well. So that's what we have initially there, and then what I will do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to set as few things as possible, but I'll explain them very briefly so you'll be able to do this rapidly yourselves. Alright, so timing, and I'm just going to make this allow this to open at 7 a.m. on the 12th, and I'm going to close it at midnight on the 13th. And then I'm going to indicate that there is going to be a time limit as indicated. I'm going to make this 60 minutes. And then we'll decide what to do for open submissions. I recommend you just leave it like that. Ideally, you've got a grade book set up that has categories in it, and you would put this in the quiz test category. If you don't, it's fine. You can put it in there later. That's not a problem at all. And then you don't have to put in grade to pass, attempts allowed. Once again, you can make this as many as you'd like. If you are trying to sort of get to a sense of what they know, I would recommend not multiple attempts. The layout is sort of important. This is how many questions will show up right in front of them. It'll be one question at a time will pop up on their screen, or you can have the whole shebang pop up on their screen. And you can have some logic in that in terms of which makes sense for you, and it's going to depend on the nature of the quiz, obviously. And this is going to be unique to every instructor, or what they feel is best, and is looking at the future questions helpful and letting them go back and forth, or do they have to just march forward? For question behavior, because we're doing this the short way, we're going to say they do not shuffle within the questions. This is a global feature for the entire quiz. Deferred feedback means if you put feedback in, it'll go to them later, but we're just going to leave it in the default position. And while some of the settings you're going to see really do have some value, for setting this up rapidly, let's just skip past all of them because it will work fine without them and go right to completion settings. And we're going to do that also, just trying to stick to the default settings. For activity completion, we trigger that and we indicate that students must receive a grade to complete the activity. And we're going to put in the completion time, and this will match the timing above. If you've taken those steps, then you have a container ready to put questions in. So the quiz container is ready, and then in the next video on the same page, I will show you how to add questions to that.